What's up guys, Aroneous here with another Raid Shadow Legends video. In today's video I'm going to be taking a dive into Arena and just going to show you a couple of tips and tricks against different teams and just maybe things that you don't know about Arena, especially if you're just starting the game or you've only been playing for a few months. And I'm going to showcase to you different teams that you can beat and how do you beat those teams. You might have potentially seen a video from Raid Shadow Legends, the YouTube channel of course, where they talked about buffs and debuffs or just debuffs in general and how they're utilized. So I'm going to showcase a few different ways that you can take your Arena team and basically synergize your team so that you're utilizing your buffs and or your debuffs properly to take down teams such as this one here. Annie Elf, for example, level 100, a pay-to-win player. As you can see, you can tell from right here the crown and the level 50 they purchased. Clearly they purchased the the Forge Pass. So they purchased the Forge Pass and they have very good champions too, right? So they've got really good champions in Duchess, Cardiel, Warlord, I almost said Warcaster, Warlord, and then of course Leorious, a really good champion. And they've got blessings on all of these champions as well. While I have this speed team, right? And some of you may or may not know this, but this guy is immune to specific debuffs and especially stuns. So let me see if it's on here. This champion's immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, true fear, and petrification debuffs when this skill is not on cooldown. So it's kind of crazy. Yeah, so basically he's immune to all that. So what I'm going to do is the team that I typically take in to fight Leorious, I'm going to showcase that team first. So the first team I'm going to utilize is going to be, let's see, we're going to go with this team here. And the reason why I do that is because I have Phoenix here, and Phoenix has the block buffs. And of course, you also may or may not know this, but Leorious has the passive ability where when he goes down to 1% HP lost, he's going to put an unkillable on himself for, I believe, 1 turn. So it's kind of similar to Skull Crown. And basically the block buffs debuff is going to make it so that if he does get down to 1% or he takes a fatal blow, he's just going to die because that unkillable is not going to be placed. And as long as your champion has enough accuracy, you should be able to land it with no problem. I have my Phoenix built for Arena. I'm free to play 100%, and this guy is built with decent accuracy, not that great. It could be better. 254 speed because I want him going second. And then he just has everything else I really don't care about. He's built with a tiny bit of damage, but he's not my damage dealer. He's really the one that's going to be placing block active skills and block buffs. And the goal is to hopefully land block buffs. You have an 80% chance to land it. Places a block active skills debuff for 1 turn if the skill does not place a block buff. So there's a 20% threshold that he's not going to land block buffs. So there are times where I have to go in and face the team again just because of that. And then I also have Basilius Aroneous. I have him as my CC. He's got 271 speed, enough crit rate, enough crit damage just to do a little bit of damage. I put some attack on him. I put him with as high accuracy as I could. I can get his accuracy higher, but he should be fine the way he is. And the biggest thing that you don't want to be careful of is the masteries, right? So the Resurgent Mastery, if you have too much damage on your CC champion that's attacking them, then they have a chance to proc Resurgent Mastery. And if Resurgent Mastery goes off, which is on the defense tree of masteries, your debuff that you've placed is just going to be removed. So if he's going to place a stun, right? If my Basilius Aroneous is going to place a stun, I want to make sure and hope that he doesn't do too much damage, because if he goes over 25% damage on them and the Resurgent Mastery procs, then it kind of stinks because now the stun doesn't stick. So, and I love my Foley. My Foley is my main damage dealer. He's actually not in Savage. He is in a Swift Parry set, and I'd say that this is a pretty good build considering I am free to play, where for a Swift Parry set is not bad. I've got him in 4600 attack, 198 speed, 100% crit rate, 290 crit damage. So if I got this guy literally +4 with the gear that I have on, and my gear has room for growth, then he could be an absolute menace. Now, Foley is not like the best damage dealer out there, but he's actually my best damage dealer on my account. So that's why I use him. So let's go ahead and take you into this run. I'm going to walk you through it. And let me just go ahead and first do the speed up, because we want to make sure we're increasing our speed, increasing our attack. And here's the ability from Basilius Rowanus. Attacks all enemies, 75% chance of placing a stun for 1 turn. Decreases each target's turn meter by 50% if the stun debuff is not placed. So, because he's immune, Leorious is going to be immune to stun. So more than likely, as long as he doesn't have high resistance, which most people shouldn't be building him for high resistance because they're building him for straight up damage, so he's probably not going to resist this ability, and therefore he's going to lose 50% of his turn meter, which allows me to gain traction against this team. Now, the people that are most likely going to resist, possibly Duchess, but also because he's a weak affinity against her, but she's built slow, as you can see. There's so much more turn meter here that has to go before she can take a turn. Cardiel is here too, he's pretty fast, but we're a neutral affinity, neutral affinity, neutral affinity, so I should be able to land the debuff for stun to CC the waves. Crowd control is extremely important in Arena, so let's go ahead and do that. And I actually got lucky. So, as you can see, stun here, stun here, stun here, and Leorious did not take the stun, right? So, he's immune. But guess what? He lost 50% turn meter. Before, he was right here, roughly, and his turn meter went down, but because this person takes a turn, instantly his turn meter goes up a little bit. And now my turn meters are all set perfectly, right? This is called speed tuning your team to ensure that you get all your abilities off perfectly and making sure that they don't get a turn, basically. So here's the thing that I hate about Leorious is that this can happen, right? So this happened where Phoenix, now I could have brought in a different champion, right? I could have brought in Norog, which is a much better block buffs champion, right? So if I just brought in Norog, probably would have been fine. I think Norog is a neutral affinity, if I'm not mistaken, possibly. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to double check on that one. No, yeah, neutral affinity because Leorious is a void champion. So Norog's neutral. He would have been able to place it just fine because Norog has a 100% chance to place the block buffs debuff. So now I'm going to go ahead and try to kill these guys here. And the other thing you want to take a note in is looking at their HP bar, right? Who has the most HP here based on these little ticks? And that can be a little bit challenging sometimes, but you also kind of can't tell who has the highest defense typically. You can also use this info tab to look up the different debuffs and buffs that are on your team versus their team, and sometimes these can actually be helpful for you, especially when they have like 10 of these debuffs on there. They have like 10 debuffs on there, the max amount of debuffs that they can get. Then you can look at this info and you can actually see all the debuffs before you take a turn if you're trying to play super smart. Now obviously, platinum level, I wouldn't be taking this long. This is just me explaining these things to you. So I'm going to go ahead and attack Warlord. Warlord's down. Now, because we're a little bit fast enough, the one thing I'm concerned about is I'm not going to take a turn by the time it comes back around to my Basilius Rowanus, because you can see here, Leorious has this much turn meter, and we have just a smidge to go. So I'm actually going to use my A1 on Leorious to decrease his turn meter again, right? And that's how I typically beat turn meter, or try to turn meter control against Leorious. Now, Leorious was able to take a turn before my Foley, which stinks, but I did survive the hit. I stole the unkillable. We were gonna survive against that hit from Leorious regardless. So now I'm gonna go against Duchess. Okay, we got the fear, and let's go ahead and kill him. There you go. So that's kind of how I beat the Leorious teams. Now there's other ways to beat them as well. I would consider that to be a pretty strong team in Gold 5. That's just me. This is also another insanely strong team, which I do not like. I'm going to use tokens. Another thing I wanted to talk about in the arena is team power and kind of understanding that a little bit. And some people get a little bit scared with team power. So for example, we'll take this team as an example. 263 team power, or 263,000 team power. And they probably have a very fast Arbiter. Now you may be thinking, oh my god, this Arbiter is going to absolutely massacre my team, but you could be mistaken. So what I also look at is not just this team power, but also I look at their player power. So they have 6.7 million player power. And then you look at me, I'm at 9.5 million player power. Now the player power counts based on your champions you own, the artifacts that you have, and then, you know, basically the level of your Great Hall, so on and so forth. It adds it all up and totals your player power. So I have 9.5 million. That person had less than me. So I have a feeling personally that I'm going to be faster. However, she does have the blessing. I believe this is the blessing that allows the aura, the team aura, to be a little bit better and reduces our team aura. So that's the one thing I would be concerned about. So what I'm going to do either way is throw in my CC team. This is my typical team that I play. And something I did off camera really quickly is I increased the stats on my Foley a little bit more. I have to finish upgrading the attack piece, but you're going to take a look at this real quick. If I change the masteries to have attack instead of crit rate, I would gain more attack by 75. So I'm at 106 crit rate and 306% crit damage. And that's in a swift parry set. So that's very, very strong. It also did drop down his speed to 184. But I feel like that should be fine. I don't think I'm going to have issues as long as I can CC. The speed tune will be a slightly off, but I think I'll be okay. Let's see what happens here. Let's see if they're faster than me. So they are faster because of the blessing, which really sucks. So that's the thing about blessings. Blessings make a massive difference on anybody's account. And so be careful with those blessings now, because you have to take those into account now. Especially if you don't see it on Arbiter, the blessing could be on a different champion. So just to showcase to you that blessing where I just got absolutely mollywopped. Let's see. So that blessing is Intimidating Presence. So it strengthens your team aura and weakens the enemy team's aura. If multiple champions on the same team have Intimidating Presence, only one will work. If champions on the same team have both the Intimidating Presence and Commanding Presence, only Intimidating Presence will work. So she was, I don't know if she was a 1-star or 2-star or 3-star, but basically based on the star levels of the blessing, the aura gets reduced by even more on the enemy team. So our aura got reduced by 5%, right? So because of the reduction by 5%, it does impact my team significantly. Now, so if I go back into Arena, just going to talk about a couple more things here. So here's a really good team, level 100 Bob Goblin. They have a Necrit, 233k team power, probably faster than me. They have a blessing on here, but it doesn't show the blessing. Let me see. He's awakened, but there's no blessing. See how there's blessings here? So they awaken Necrit, they awaken Warlord, but they didn't put a blessing on them, which is kind of strange to me. And typically a team I would use against this would just be my faster team, because this is just a speed game, right? Until you start getting into higher levels of gold and platinum, of course, that's when you're going to start to see more of those Mithralas and things like that. And Mithralas, I try to avoid them like the plague, but you can beat Mithrala teams. It's not the end of the world. So she's going to go, but of course he can't do the ally attack. I'm going a little bit faster. We're going to speed up again so I can take a turn with my Foley. And let's try to go for Necrit. Be absolutely demolished. Alright, so Foley with 306% crit damage, even though it's not in a Savage gear, is ridiculous in that Swift Parry set that I have him in. Because I've been farming like crazy. Like, don't ever stop farming Faction Wars so that you can get items for the Forge. Don't ever stop doing tournaments. Don't ever stop doing, what do you call them, events. Because you can get really good gear. You can get those core hammers. and use those core hammers for swift parry. Use it for deflection sets. It's there because they want you to progress your accounts. Swift parry is fantastic, and as long as you have additional items from the forge, which are these items right here, these charms, as long as you have plenty of charms to spend, you can make some good pieces from the forge. So never forget that. If you want damage gear, boom, throw it on there. Boom, swift parry. You get plus 18% speed, plus 30 crit damage, 50% chance of becoming unkillable if they're hit with a fatal hit. So this gear, do not sleep on swift parry. I know that Stone Skin has come up and all these other sets like protection and things like that. And yeah, that's going to be like really, really end game stuff, right? That's going to be end game like platinum level artifacts, right? Because the Stone Skin that I get from easy and then hard Hydra, right, for example, it's not going to be nearly as strong as people that are in high-end gold. And I honestly don't see that much Stone Skin as compared to what I would assume I'd be seeing at this point. Most of the Stone Skin is in platinum. Most of the Stone Skin and protection sets are in platinum. Now you will see protection sets in gold, but it's not as prevalent as platinum. So when you see players that are talking about Arena that are in platinum, it doesn't make sense because 90% of the player base is in gold. Okay, so again, most of the players are in gold. You shouldn't have to worry too much. Let me go back here. I don't know where I took myself here. But yeah, so here's another team, for example. I'll do one more team showcase and how I would tackle them. So again, it's just another speed team. I'm going to be honest with you. This is kind of just another speed race, which is super annoying. And most of Arena is speed. So you got Arbiter, you got Sifi with Trunda. This guy's just probably in Stone Skin. Another speed with Withier, which is super annoying. You know what? Let's face Withier. So they're going to be really good, right? +1 here with Lysandra, +1 Withier. And of course they also have Valkyrie, which she does have that passive ability. This champion's turn meter is increased by 10% each time an enemy champion places a buff. Enemy champions will have their turn meters decreased by 10% for each buff they receive. So, luckily I'm only getting one buff on each ally. We did end up beating her very slightly, but we're probably going to speed ourselves up only to slow ourselves down. And she's so fast, Lysandra, that I've got to be careful. Even if I were to reduce her turn meter by 15%, I don't know that it would be enough turn meter reduction for my Leorious Aroneous to go. Let's try it out, though. I will try it out just to showcase it. Yeah, so we were not fast enough to take a turn, which really stinks, honestly. So let's see what happens here. If I can take a turn and stun them, that would be nice. We did get 2 stuns. And of course, they're going to take turns, which is fine. It is what it is. I'll go ahead and pick my champion back up. I couldn't place increase attack, which is detrimental to this battle. But I think I can take, because we're positive affinity against Lysandra and against Valkyrie, I'm just going to aim for Withier. And of course, gotta remember that Narog mitigates damage. Narog mitigates damage by about 25%, I believe, in battles. So let's try to just take him out if we can. Take her out. That's fine. Counterattack set is on my Leorious Aroneous. Very good set to put on. Damage dealers that remove debuffs, or sorry, remove buffs or steal buffs, which is very, very helpful. Man, Narog with the block buffs is ridiculous. Let's go ahead and do this. We've almost got Narog, not quite though. Let's steal that continuous heal. We ended up dying, which stinks. Let's go ahead and revive. Heal up again. And I think we're golden. Let's go ahead and put it on auto for the rest of the way. And we're good to go. So, having Savage is going to be extremely helpful and beneficial for anybody's nuker. And I do highly recommend putting your nuking champions in Savage. However, if you don't have ridiculous Savage gear, if you don't get lucky with Fire Knight, like I don't get lucky with Fire Knight, then putting them in alternative gear sets that you can get crazy high crit damage is also beneficial. It's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But Savage is typically the priority. But that's going to be it for this one, guys. If you guys enjoyed watching the video, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.